We're going to get started with that severe weather system slamming California, bringing historic rainfall to the region.
President Biden is pledging federal help after Southern California got 6 to 12 inches over the last 2 days. It's one of the wettest periods in SoCal history. Fallen trees have killed at least 3 people, and the storm is creating dangerous conditions all across the region with severe flooding and mudslides in several areas.
The Los Angeles Fire Department has carried out several water rescues. A firefighter captured this video of a crew rescuing a man who jumped in a raging river to rescue his dog. And this morning, the rain isn't over in Southern California. San Diego is expected to get more wet weather throughout the day.
NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman is more on the storm and where it is headed next. We're going to get to her in just a moment. But first, we begin with NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin. She joined us from San Diego with the latest. So, Dana, what's it looking like there? What can people expect for their morning commute?
Joe, Savannah, good morning. Right now, we're getting some steady rain right now, still pretty light compared to the additional rain that is expected to hit later this morning. We are in the South Crest neighborhood where 2 weeks ago, San Diego experienced that historic flooding that caused millions of dollars worth of damage and turned neighborhoods like this into rushing rivers. People forced to climb on top of their roofs and cars as those vehicles were swept away in some areas. Right now, things are pretty mild. We are seeing some minor flooding in areas, but nothing too major causing too much concern right now. But officials are still warning people to watch for the potential of flooding. There's a flood watch in effect here in San Diego. Up in Los Angeles County, there is still flash flood warnings, and they really received the brunt of this storm yesterday as mud flow and debris filled several neighborhoods, causing landslides and mudslides. Even some cars got stuck in the mud there. It's still 4 o'clock in the morning here on the West Coast, so people are still probably in their beds, but come in a few hours when they start to hit the roads, people are probably going to need to take it slow as they head to work. Savannah?
Dana, tell us about the damages that people are seeing in the wake of these storms. I know you're in San Diego. You mentioned just how bad it was this last time around. What are people dealing with in this as they try to start to clean up?
Yeah, thousands of people have experienced damage to their homes. Several people have experienced flooding. Some of those debris flows have come into neighborhoods, landslides. So it's concerning for a lot of people because, this storm is wreaking havoc just across the counties here in Southern California. In Los Angeles counties, there was one neighborhood where they had several trees come down. And I think that's the big concern here because there have now been 3 confirmed deaths, people killed by falling trees. So if you don't have to step outside, if you don't have to be near a tree, don't try to touch anything now because you've still got a lot of saturated soil. So it is possible for trees and power lines to still come down even as the storm moves on. This is going to last for a couple of days. But here in San Diego, nothing too major. There was a minor sinkhole that opened up a little north of where we are now. But again, this storm is still moving through, so we could possibly see more damage throughout the day.
Dana, a lot of folks are living with all this without any power. Just where do things stand with power outages in the state?
Yeah, I just checked in. There's about 150,000 people across the state without power. Most of those power outages are concentrated in Northern California and in Los Angeles County. So power crews are working to get the power restored. So we'll be monitoring that throughout the day.
All right.
Back to you.
Dana Griffin. Dana, thank you so much.
And now let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman has more on the storm and the forecast. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. We know from what Dana just showed us, the system is not done with the West just yet. We've still got plenty of alerts up. We still have some impactful days ahead as it starts to march to the east. Let's talk about these winter alerts first. 1 million of folks included in that. You can see it in the brighter white there. The flood alerts, though, close to 30 million. Those are still extended into portions of Southern California and out over crossing into that Arizona state line. Phoenix included in that, LA, San Diego, all have the potential to see some flooding through the day today. We've got the wind alerts up for 8 million as well across portions of Arizona. Here's the radar this morning. Dana mentioned still really early there, but notice just how consistent this rain continues to be. We've continued to break record daily rainfall records across many of these locations over the past couple of days. And today we're going to add some additional rain onto that. And and onto those totals. Here's the system and how it plays out over the next couple of days. Notice as we go through the day today, we start to really see the snow ramping up in portions of the Rockies. That's something we'll see not just today, but even into tomorrow. It'll be heavy at times, and that means that the travel is going to be difficult. But we're still dealing with, unfortunately, more rain across portions of Southern California. We know how much they've received over the past few days, a month's worth of rain in a day in some spots. So again, these concerns are going to remain when it comes to the flooding. By the time we get into your Wednesday and into the rest of the work week, the system does finally start to move out of the west, but the snow continues across the Rockies. The strong winds will be once again something to contend with across that region and making travel difficult. And then by the time we get into Thursday, we're getting to the end of our work week, but the snow will start to blanket portions of the northern plains. We'll see rain working ahead of that system as well, with the Great Lakes picking up some rainfall. And it'll be once again something that will slow us down as we wrap up our work week. Flash flood risk, though, through the day today. Impressive rainfall rates. Again, it's not going to take much to see some flooding across this region that's picked up so much rain, guys. LA, San Diego, Phoenix, all included in the slight risk of those areas. So those are the spots that you're really going to want to watch, extending down to Yuma. And you can see another inch to 2 inches. LA, Oceanside, San Diego, again, Phoenix, areas north of there. This is going to be something that we deal with through Wednesday. So we're not done with that threat just yet. When it comes to snowfall, I think a lot of folks at ski resorts are going to be happy about this. But again, it makes the travel difficult. We've got up to a foot to a foot and a half expected in some of those highest mountain peaks across the Rockies.
After Wednesday, then maybe a little bit of a break for the West Coast?
A little bit of a break, yes. And they'll need it, of course, to dry out from all the rain they've received in such a short period of time. So
absolutely. Angie, thank you. See you in a bit.
This morning, we are following the reaction to the news that King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer. Buckingham Palace made the announcement in a statement yesterday, saying the cancer is not related to his recent treatment for an enlarged prostate. NBC News foreign correspondent Molly Hunter reports from Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace announcing King Charles III has been diagnosed with a form of cancer. Just a week after the 75-year-old monarch was released from a London hospital following a routine prostate procedure. In good spirits, walking out, waving to the crowd with wife Queen Camilla by his side. In the statement released, the palace not saying what kind of cancer it is, only revealing that during the king's recent hospital procedure for benign prostate enlargement, a separate issue of concern was noted. Subsequent diagnostic tests have identified a form of cancer. According to Buckingham Palace, Charles began outpatient treatment in London.
So the King, actually, by disclosing some of those personal details about his prostate issues just recently, was in some ways breaking with tradition. The Queen was certainly much more private about her health.
The palace confirms he shared his diagnosis personally with sons Harry and William, and a source close to Harry and Meghan tells NBC News Harry will travel to the UK to visit his father in coming days. Charles, who's been king for just 18 months, will continue to undertake state business and official paperwork and will postpone upcoming events.
I think we will expect to see certainly William do more duties over the next couple of months, which will be difficult for him.
According to the palace, Queen Camilla will continue with a full schedule of royal duties.
Our thanks to Molly Hunter for that report. We will see Queen Camilla outperforming those royal duties. We just learned we will actually see Prince William return to public engagements for the first time since his wife Kate had abdominal surgery. She is expected, though, to be out of the public eye until after Easter.
For more on this, we are joined by NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, thanks for being here. I know we keep having you come to talk about royal health when we don't have that many details, but I guess the first question is just how common is it to determine that you have cancer when you were there for something totally different?
So this particular procedure and finding an incidental cancer, experts are saying anywhere between like 5 and 10% of times that this will happen. And what people should understand too is that oftentimes when you're doing a procedure for something that you are presuming is benign, there is what we refer to as an incidental finding. When you go in and do a resection of any type, and in this case, they're taking out tissue of a benign prostate, right, because of this prostate hypertrophy, they're going to take biopsies of the tissue. They sampled the prostate. They determined that there was no incidental finding of prostate cancer there. But if they saw any abnormal looking cells when they were going in the urethral lining or the bladder, they were going to take biopsies of that area. So the presumption is that that's what happened, that they were in there and they took samples, either normal looking tissue or maybe abnormal looking tissue. And then when they actually analyzed it under a microscope, they determined that there was some type of cancer there.
So the king just turned 75 years old. How big of a factor is age when it comes, first of all, to fighting the cancer, but then also when it'll come to him, like, trying to perform his duties while battling this?
Well, of course, it depends what type, right? And of course, is it a low grade? Is it a high grade tumor? I think everything that we have gotten so far, which I know is not a lot, would suggest that this hopefully is a very early stage, probably restricted to the genitourinary system, so whether it was partially from the urethra or maybe from the bladder, that it's something early stage and he's starting treatments as an outpatient. That's always a good sign. And we're getting a lot of optimistic tone from the palace, which I think is important. A much more concerning situation would be if there was a cancer that had metastasized to the prostate. That would indicate a much more serious diagnosis and prognosis. I think he's going to do quite well. But of course, yes, age is always a factor in terms of being able to tolerate treatment. But if it is something that is very local, very early stage, the treatment may not even involve anything systemic, but rather local therapy, for example, in the bladder or something like that. He should tolerate it quite well.
While we still have a lot of questions, I've been pretty amazed by how open the palace has been in this particular instance, especially, historically, that's not always the case. And they said that the king is doing so to help public understanding.
Yes.
What do you think this could do for the public about, increasing cancer screenings, that type of thing, when they see somebody in a position like this sharing that? And what should people remember about things like that?
Yeah, and we talked about this, I think, when the king first underwent the procedure itself, that having a conversation about your prostate, especially for men, is something that people aren't necessarily comfortable with. And even though he was not diagnosed with prostate cancer, it does raise the topic of prostate cancer screening and how important it is for men to have this conversation with their healthcare provider about when to start. A really important new update, actually, that I want to share with you is that the Prostate Cancer Foundation, which is separate from the American Cancer Society and the task force, of course, that sets a lot of guidelines, has really been pushing for Black men to get screened earlier between the ages of 40 and 45 because the benefit to them clearly outweighs the potential risk of overdiagnosis. And I think that that's a message that we need to keep on sending to men. We talk a lot about the fact that the PSA test is not a perfect test for screening, but it's really all we've got. And it is an important test in the right population of individuals who are at high risk, and Black men do disproportionately make up that group.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was putting out that message just last week.
Exactly. So a lot of vocal, a lot of high, what do you call it?
Profile.
Profile,
exactly.
Thank you.
Which we know increases people getting screened and things like that. And it's just a reminder, just regular, checkups and appointments can always catch a lot of things that you wouldn't expect, right?
Doc, what cancer screenings do I need to do this year? That should be one of the first questions you ask your doctor every year.
And if something feels wrong or you know your own body, start to flag it, even if you're not in those windows of screening ages.
And that's the other thing. When you find something incidentally before it is causing symptoms, the inference there is that it's an earlier stage, which is always important. But if you wait for something to, symptoms for months and months and months, that could portend a little bit of a worse prognosis.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Azar, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Breaking this morning, country music icon Toby Keith has passed away after battling stomach cancer. A statement posted to Keith's website and social media says he, quote, passed peacefully last night on February 5th, surrounded by his family. He fought his fight with grace and courage. Keith sold between 25 and 30 million records. His hits included Should Have Been a Cowboy, As Good As I Once Was, and Beer for My Horses. The singer first announced that he was living with the disease back in June of 2022. Toby Keith was 62 years old.
Well, this morning there are reports of new drone attacks by Iran-backed Houthi militants on ships in the Red Sea, despite a recent barrage of retaliatory strikes by the U.S. NBC News Pentagon correspondent Courtney Kuby is the only reporter embedded with the Navy in the Red Sea and has this exclusive look at the U.S. efforts to stop the attacks.
The Iranian-backed Houthi militia again firing on commercial ships in the Red Sea and vowing more is to come. despite new U.S. retaliatory strikes designed to deter them.
We will not hesitate to defend lives and the free flow of commerce.
We were there on Saturday night just after 10 p.m. when the U.S. and British military hit 36 Houthi targets in 13 locations.
We're on the deck of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier in the southern Red Sea. This is where, over the weekend, more than 24 U.S. military aircraft took off to conduct strikes against the Houthi rebels in Yemen.
Captain Marvin Scott flew an F-A-18 in those strikes, calling them a success.
We do extensive mission planning. Everyone launches knowing, what the game plan is. We rarely miss.
Lieutenant Commander Alex Morgan is a helicopter pilot.
Did we think we'd be doing it here in the Red Sea? My crystal ball was broken that day, but the way we do it hasn't changed dramatically.
The commander of the carrier strike group telling us there is still significant danger here.
How big of a threat do the Houthis pose to freedom of navigation right now?
A substantial threat. They could attack a commercial ship, render it somewhat immobile, and could bog the strait up for weeks, if not months.
And he says the Houthis are getting critical help from Iran.
They are getting intelligence from Iran. They are using Iran to give them some targeting information.
The commanding officer saying all of it creates a threat to the U.S. military, too.
Are you worried about the safety of the sailors on this ship?
Absolutely. Am I worried about the safety of the ship? Every single day.
This comes as the U.S. is also retaliating against the Iranian-backed militias responsible for a drone attack that killed 3 U.S. soldiers, hitting 85 targets in 7 locations inside Iraq and Syria on Friday. The president has been under pressure to respond more forcefully, with over 160 attacks by Iranian-backed militants against American targets since October. Mr. Biden declaring the new U.S. strikes a success.
Are the strikes working, Mr. President? Yes.
Meanwhile, these missions are also leaving a mark with the American service members carrying them out.
Seeing missiles being launched from aircraft, the explosions associated with all of these things. It's a lot of sights and sounds that will be etched in my brain forever.
President Biden says these strikes are working. But even after the airstrikes in Iraq and Syria on Friday night, there are now reports of at least 2 more incidents where Iranian-backed militias targeted bases with Americans in Syria. But as of now, there have been no reports of any injuries.
All right, Courtney, thank you so much.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with the Egyptian president in Cairo this morning. It's the latest stop in his 5th visit to the region since the war between Israel and Hamas began. Blinken is trying to make progress in the negotiations for a ceasefire and the release of the remaining hostages. He's also trying to send the message that the U.S. is not looking for a war with Iran.
Egypt is Blinken's 2nd stop on this Middle East tour. Yesterday, he sat down with Saudi's Crown Prince to discuss regional coordination to end the war, as well as what Gaza should look like once the fighting is over.
NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Tel Aviv with the very latest. Matt, good morning. So let's start with that meeting between Secretary Blinken and the Saudi Crown Prince. What did they talk about, and what happens next now in this push for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas?
Yeah, well, Joel, I'll get the second question first here. He's going to be traveling to Qatar and to here in Israel and also to the Israeli-occupied West Bank, all part of these negotiations on an endgame for the war in Gaza and that prisoner negotiation or the hostage deal to release more than 100 hostages, 6 of them Americans that are still being held in the Gaza Strip. Now, in addition to all of that, as you were just describing, there is that on the table. There's the end game for the Gaza Strip. There's also a much more ambitious plan that Blinken is trying to do as part of the Biden administration's initiative to perhaps recognize a Palestinian state. Now, this would require something from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia would essentially be able to underwrite this deal in exchange for some sort of defense pact with the United States, some technology transfers, and it sounds like maybe contributing to the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. This is part of Biden's new initiative to kind of rebuild the Middle East from the ashes of what's been going on in the Gaza Strip. Now, in addition to that, the main goal of this trip, really, in addition to the hostage negotiations, is trying to assuage all of the U.S.'s partners in the region, trying to tell them that the U.S.'s attacks against Iran-backed groups in Iraq and Syria, now the Houthis in Yemen, you just heard that story, that this is not part of an escalation in the fight against Iran. That might be a hard sell considering that the U.S. has vowed to have weeks of retribution and retaliation against these Iran-backed groups. Guys.
Matt, let's talk about what's happening on the ground in Gaza. The Israeli military says it's close to achieving its mission in Khan Yunis. What exactly does that mean? What was the mission? What does that mean they have accomplished? And what about all the people that had evacuated to that city?
Yeah, well, it's part and parcel with Israel's broader mission in the Gaza Strip, which is to defeat Hamas, but also to try to free the hostages, of which their military efforts have only released one hostage. So far, all of the hostages, except for that one, have been released through negotiated deals like the one that Anthony Blinken is trying to negotiate right now. So the IDF has circled Khan Yunis. They've signaled that they are essentially within earshot of victory now there. And they're turning their gun sights onto the more southern city of Rafah, which is right along the Gazan border with Egypt. That is where the remaining, millions of people who have fled the northern parts of the Gaza Strip are remaining. And so, really, we're talking about almost all of the Gaza Strip has now come under Israeli fire and Israeli attack. There is no place for these many, many civilians to hide. Guys.
And Matt, finally, the UN Secretary General has appointed now a former French foreign minister to lead the investigation into UNRWA. What more can you tell us about that?
Yes, this is a very experienced diplomat, a former French ambassador to the UK, and she has broad approval among all the different parties in France. And so she's someone who's in a position to deliver a report that's thought to come by the end of March. A final report is thought to come by the end of April on whether or not the allegations that Israel has leveled against UNRWA are true. The 12 staff members of UNRWA participated in those October 7th attacks. Now, this is something that UNRWA has basically said they are looking into. They have fired those 12 people, but they are really despairing of the fact that so many countries, more than a dozen, have withdrawn their funding, at least temporarily, from UNRWA. This is an organization that provides the vast bulk of all of the aid going to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. So really, there is a very, very acute need for funding to continue to UNRWA if they're supposed to keep propping up the civilian population there. Guys.
Right. Matt Bradley. Matt, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.